Brainchip has officially announced their new CEO. We know that there's been a lot of eyes on the ASX BRN story after their founder, Peter van der Made, retook the reins as interim CEO as they search for the new person to lead them into this next stage of commercialisation. We've talked about the Akida opportunity before, transitioning all the way from research and development to a global company as they look to commercialise their top-of-class, first-in-class neuromorphic processor. It's a fascinating time. There's been a lot of interest in who this CEO would be and the types of capabilities and opportunities that they would bring to the BRN story. Today, we'll discuss who the new CEO is. We'll talk about the network that they have and potentially why they've been considered for the role. And then at the end of the video, I'll share my thoughts on the appointment and what it could mean for Brainchip moving forward. If you do enjoy the video, don't forget to hit the like button. Feel free to share it out. If you're new here, welcome. We make daily videos, so make sure you've subscribed and turn your bell notifications on so you won't miss any of our daily episodes. Before we dive in, a reminder that I'm not a financial advisor. Nothing we discuss is financial advice. These videos are just here as a general discussion to be that starting spot for you to do your own research from. And so before we dive into who Sean Hehir is, the new CEO of Brainchip, it makes sense for us to take a bit of a step back and have a think about it. Who was BRN searching for? We know that Peter van der Made previously had an interview where he discussed the types of candidates they were considering. He used language that they were looking for candidates capable of taking the company from where it currently was to that next level up. He described the types of candidates they were searching for as someone who is hungry and eager for success. And some of the different narratives that both Peter van der Made and Antonio Viana, another one of the board members, and other members involved with the Brainchip story provided around this announcement have been interesting. So Peter van der Made, who was serving as interim CEO, of course welcomed Sean to the company and stated that they have every confidence that Sean is the right executive to guide Brainchip into the future, who will make sound decisions about the business opportunities before the company and really try to ignite industry enthusiasm for the new AI capabilities that are made possible by Akida. Of course, as we've highlighted before, Brainchip is transitioning from concept through to the R&D phase and now moving forward towards commercialization. And of course, these different stages of the process require different skill sets, capabilities, and different types of people to really help to accelerate and amplify the opportunity. And so this is why Brainchip has looked forward towards Sean Hehir as a person to take them forward into this next stage of their journey. Antonio Viana, as mentioned, is an experienced executive. He sits on the board of Brainchip and he's got a long and storied history at companies including Arm, stated that they're delighted to have Sean join them. He's got strengths in building strategic relationships with top technology providers and he's led companies previously to major revenue stages, which of course is what a lot of investors have been looking forward to with Brainchip as they transition. And as you can see here, he stood out to the board during their search. Those who have been looking at the Brainchip story previously are familiar that it hasn't been a short search. It's gone over a period of many months. They've been waiting, they've had a short list, and they've been pouring through the different individuals, and it's clear that Sean stood out during this search. I'd love to know your thoughts on it all, so drop in a comment below. Firstly, what you think about Brainchip's new appointment, and where do you think Sean has the ability to take Brainchip to moving forward? So that then brings us to Sean. Who is he? He has a track record of organizational development, strategic alliances, and go-to-market programs. He has a long and experienced history at Hewlett-Packard. I'm sure many people are familiar with HP, but also he's had some experience at a company called Fusion.io. You might not be as familiar with them. They were eventually acquired by SanDisk. But interestingly, actually, Steve Wozniak, one of the co-founders and earliest employees at Apple, served as chief scientist there. So of course, it's a company playing in the depth of the technology space, got a significant amount of experience, and of course, your network from working at a company like there would be extensive. But we'll also talk about some other opportunities for Sean Hehir's network that really have helped him to drive experience in driving explosive revenue growth for the world's largest technology organizations. The focus now is transitioning from R&D to revenue. And he is US based with an impressive network. I know there's been a lot of theory crafting and potentially hypothesizing about the potential CEOs that Brainchip might be bringing in. I've read many of the forums and many of the different thoughts and theories about it all. And I guess the fact here is that, of course, now Sean, this will be his first CEO appointment, but Brainchip was seeking someone who was fresh and hungry with something to prove. If you think about someone like Lisa Su, before she took over the reins at AMD, she was not a household name. However, if you think about where AMD was a decade ago compared to where they are now as one of the leading players globally. And so I guess this is what Brainchip's searching for. With the top of class technology, they're hoping to have a passionate leader with a vision and with a real ability to bring this vision to reality and drive sales, growth, and ultimately commercial scale globally around the world. It's going to be fascinating to see how Sean goes. Of course, there's going to be a lot of eyes on his ability to really convert commercial agreements, to continue to lead this team now that they have assembled. But we'll be wishing Sean the best, and it'll be fascinating to see how this next period plays out. Now he's on board as the leader moving forward. As mentioned, Sean has got a storied history at companies like Hewlett-Packard, Fusion.io, most recently at Compaq. Of course, these types of opportunities have enabled him to develop his network, become established within the US technology scene, and he's got a real depth of experience as an executive in this space. Or I'd also like to highlight another piece of experience. As a board member of SVEN, which is a Silicon Valley Executive Network, you can see here some of the eligibility requirements for SVEN. It's a private and invitation-only network. It holds many current CXO or VP tech executives and their companies, from people in early-stage startups, from leading global companies, Global 2000 companies, investors, and leading academic and research institutions as well. It really is the who's who in Silicon Valley, which we know is a real hub for technology globally. But Sean sits on the board of that. So you only have to think about some of the discussions that might be had, whether maybe an email goes out, or maybe there's a post about one of our board members has accepted a CEO role at Brainchip. People might start thinking, they may be over coffee. They might be asking, what's the organizations you're working at? Or have you heard about where Sean is working? They might be asking the question, what is a neuromorphic processor? Does it have the ability to improve our current processes or the current products that we're trying to deploy? Or could it provide a step change in terms of the service delivery that we can give to our customers as well? These are the types of discussions that happen when you're in an established network. Sean will likely have an established Rolodex, but of course, building on that as well, not only does he bring his own network and his own experience driving revenue growth around, but there is a world-class team in place as well. You can see here the assembled Brainchip leadership team and management team there, from Peter Vandermeer and Anil, the co-founders. Of course, I've got Rob Towson really leading the worldwide sales and marketing effort. The board of directors is extremely established. And if you haven't yet, I'd also encourage you to check out the SAB, the Scientific Advisory Board. It really is a who's who in terms of the technology and broader space. I've got a depth of experience that will be helping to really develop the opportunity and the offering that Brainchip has. And this world-class leadership team really does go hand in hand with the top of class technology. Of course, we know that Brainchip has the only commercially available neuromorphic processor available in the world at the moment that helps to facilitate AI at the edge. They've got a lead over other companies like IBM and Intel that are trying to commercialize their neuromorphic processors. And of course, the performance that AKD can provide from all reports is even better than the initial engineering samples. So there's a lot of excitement about what this team can deliver and how Sean will be able to lead it moving forward. And so I guess the question is, what happens now? Of course, all eyes will be on commercial agreements. We know that while they've been searching for this new CEO, there would likely have been concurrent discussions going on with a range of different potential customers. So it'll be interesting to see as we head into the back end of this year, if there are more agreements that come to market. I'm sure longer-term Brainchip investors will remember December 21st last year, where the first IP licensing agreement for Anasis came to market. It'll be fascinating to see whether we see something similarly into the back end of 2021. Of course, R&D and tech development will continue to scale. Peter Vandermeer is also the Chief Technology Officer, but of course, he's been serving as interim CEO. Now that he'll be able to relinquish those day-to-day types of activities and responsibilities, he will be able to go back onto the technology and development side. We know that AKD 2000, AKD 3000 will be in the work, and as they continue to focus on this tech development side, it will help them to amplify the current lead they have over other technologies that are trying to compete in the space. We know that the US market is a golden market, not just in the technology space, but for so many different companies around the world. And it's no different for the semiconductor space. We know that the ADRs are now live over there. Of course, this will potentially provide a larger access to capital, but also larger exposure to a range of different funds around the nation and around the world as well. Brainchip has recently announced that they'll be upgrading their facilities over in the United States. Of course, the expansion of the facilities bodes pretty well for the type of demand that they expect to see moving forward, as they'll need new team members to help to deliver that. I think what's interesting about Brainchip is they're well capitalized. We know about the LDA capital agreement that was extended out, but it looks like everything's prepared for commercialization. Of course, we've talked about it before. Brainchip is still, by the large, basically still pre-commercial and pre-revenue at the moment. So it's going to be much more inherently volatile and, of course, more inherently speculative than your conventional blue chips. As always, it's all about delivery and execution in this space. But they've assembled a world-class team. They have a top-of-class technology that's first to market. And now it does seem like the building blocks are in place. So all eyes will be on this next stage of the journey and where ASX BRN heads from here moving forward. And so when I've been thinking about this new appointment for Sean Hehir taking the reins as CEO at Brainchip, one word really comes back to mind time and time again. When I've been thinking about it, I keep thinking about the word alignment. Now, of course, we see alignment and the need for alignment in so many different facets of our day-to-day life. Maybe in your workplace, you've got an alignment with your broader workplace's mission. Maybe you're paid a bonus contingent on successful KPIs that you need to hit. And that ensures your alignment with the broader goals of the organization. Of course, on the investment sphere, we always hear about alignment from investors when they want to see the leaders and the management team having alignment with investors, making sure that they're making the right decisions. And often this is displayed by alignment through ownership of shares. Because of course, if the leadership team and the management team have significant ownership of shares, then they're incentivized for the success of the company and the share price to move in the right direction as the rest of the broader shareholder base. So this, of course, shows and displays alignment. But I do think there's one other aspect of alignment that often might be overlooked, but in fact, it may actually be the most critical one. And I think it really underpins the decision here. I'm sure if you think back to your day-to-day life, if you're a founder of your own business, whether it's a service business or a technology business, maybe you've got your own startup or you've just got a side hustle or a project you've started up. I'm sure you know how important that is. It almost becomes your own little baby. Maybe you've been just working on a project at work for a long period of time. Even if you've just been working on a project at work for a few months, when you hand it off to another team or to someone else who will be taking the reins, you almost feel like you're losing a little part of yourself. But more importantly, you want to make sure that the person who's going to be taking the reins of that is able to deliver on the vision and what you've been working on and what you've been developing and establishing. There's something that can't be overlooked when you've got co-founders who are handing over the reins as you transition from the R&D phase into the commercialization phase. They have the alignment of the mission that they've been working on. Of course, when you see the founder, Peter van der Meijde, owning around 10% of the company, he of course is incentivized to make sure that he picks the right CEO who can deliver on the mission, to make sure that hopefully the share price moves in the right direction. But I think much broader than that, the mission for Peter van der Meijde and Anil is going to be much larger than the share price growing up and building a big company. It's really about a vision that's gone for nearly 2 decades now, bringing in top-of-class technology, the world's first commercially available neuromorphic processor that can change the world of technology and computing to a wider global audience. That to them is the most important. So I think the alignment there is making sure that they have the person who they've identified as the best positioned to take the technology that they've developed and their company that they've been working on along with the rest of the team into the new stage. This is where I think there is the most alignment. I'm sure they've had all of the same thoughts that many of us as investors or prospective shareholders of Brainchip who have been considering the story have. The thought about who will be the best person, what stage of their career should they be in, should they have the experience as a previous CEO, do they want someone who's fresh and hungry, do they want someone who's focused on sales and revenue, team building, what areas do they want? I'm sure they've tossed about this, I'm sure they've sat in front of a whiteboard for hours thinking about who the right person is. But really as an investor, what are you betting on? Agnostic of the sector, whether it's the resources or technology or in the retail space. You're betting, of course, on the technology. Of course, you're betting on the actual product itself. You're betting on the sector opportunity that lays ahead. But really at its core, if you think about it and really distill it down to first principles, you're betting on the leadership and the board to set the right strategy and to bring the right management team in place to deliver on that strategy over time. And here, it looks like the Brainchip team have really not set a foot wrong over this past period. They have that alignment. They're incentivized for the same success of the company as the shareholders are. So all we can do is trust that the leadership team have made the right decision with the shortlist that they've had and with the types of different candidates that they saw, that Sean is the right person for the job. It's a fascinating time. It looks like the bus is getting ready to leave the station. Of course, it's got a long and winding journey ahead. It's not going to be a linear A to B, but it looks like a fascinating opportunity up ahead. There's a compelling proposition, and it looks like the building blocks are starting to be in place. So it'll be fascinating to see where Sean now drives this bus moving forward. Of course, with the help and the support of the broader team that has been developed over these past few years. It's an incredibly exciting time. I'm looking forward to seeing where it heads. If you did enjoy this video, don't forget to hit the like button. Feel free to share it out. If you're new here, welcome. Make sure you've subscribed and turn your bell notifications on so you don't miss a daily episode. Please drop in a comment and let us know your thoughts on this exciting transformative announcement for the Brainchip story. Thank you so much for joining us. A reminder that nothing we discuss is financial advice. It's just a general discussion to be that starting spot for you to do your own research from. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for joining us. For now, stay well and happy investing.